said, excuse me, you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, cross the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'm gonna run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up. Now-
Hello, everyone. Welcome again for another spectacular Daredevil Born Again, Episode 7, live recap and breakdown of this episode. Hello, everyone. This is Andreas Polcoach Guy. I'm your moderator today. Today, actually, we have a new guest here. I want to introduce him. Comics Culture Cosplay. How you doing, sir? Say your first day. We just met this now, sir.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh, and yeah, I'm one of the faces of the Comics and Culture Cosplay Podcast based in the Chicago area, but I'm also the editor, co-host, and I wear a lot of hats. But yeah, we're a pretty fun little show.
Oh man, you were wearing a hat today. We could have been the Hat Amigos for everybody. Nice to meet you, Josh. I'm a huge fan of your city, Chicago. I mean, of course, I grew up with the Dark Knight trilogy, and they were shot. Well, Dark Knight was shot mostly in Chicago, and of course, other pop culture things like The Fugitive and all that. But anyway, welcome to our show, sir. I hope we're gonna have a blast for this episode 7. Also, another person, the TrueKnowledge himself, the glasses, and the movie person, Jeff. Jeff is
Andre, your moderation skills have definitely strengthened, sir, over time. But your introductions, as far as when it comes to general to carry our conversation over from the studio, and that same kind of energy. Like when it comes to other podcasts I've listened to and all that, and like Cyber and I, when we moderate, your introductions are all over the place, man. Like I'm telling you, I'm surprised Cyber hasn't said anything to you about it yet. But because your intros are all over the place, dude.
Excuse
me.
Mentioning
glasses, calling Cyber, all these weird shark, the shark guy or whatever type shit.
Hey. His name is Cyberneticshark, right? A robotic shark. I mean, or Cyberneticshark, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, you want me to say it in a boring way? Here we go.
Why don't you just describe me as the co-host of the MCU'S Bleeding Edge or whatever, or
everyone knows that. All right, fine, I'll do it. Hello,
hello, or you could say that I'm a veteran content creator or something like that. Like I like to say.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna redo this. Rewind. Blah 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 blah.
Like yes, I wear glasses, sir, but we all have glasses on. So you know what I'm saying? I mean,
all right. I'm gonna do Ace Ventura Rewind. If you haven't seen those movies, he does the rewind. Here we go. La 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 la. Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Felipe Diaz, aka Andreas Pop Culture Guy. Today, I'm gonna introduce the co-host of MU. What's the name? Oh yeah, MCU Bleeding Edge. Jeff has TrueKnowledge. Hello, sir.
Thank you, sir.
How you doing?
Thank you, sir. I just want to feel acknowledged for my realistic role here. You know what I'm saying?
My God. All right. Let's get to another person here who doesn't care. He's eating right now. That's Cyberneticshark. How you doing, sir? Great.
Cyber cares that he's introduced properly and said that he's a co-host of the MCU'S Bleeding Edge as well. He's just busy eating or whatever. That's why I had to step in there for him real quick.
I'm good.
All right, Cyber, that was the best moment ever. Anyway, well, thank you, Jeff, for your incredible note. And
Cyber's just nice, sir. He's not very happy with your introductions either. I'm telling you.
Oh my God, he will tell me in the back half of the live stream review or after the live stream review. Sorry, folks. Anyway, let's get back into the Daredevil thing. Let's kind of get into the review. As kind of like Jeff saying before, a lot of us we've been discussing behind the scenes. After we kind of jump in, there's not much to talk about this episode, but we'll try our best. I have my notes here. Overall, I'm gonna go each one. Your thoughts on the first, this episode, and then we go from there, and how we do it. Comics, Josh. After that, we will go step by step of the scene of the episode and discuss it fully. So, Josh, let me hear your thoughts on this episode. What you thought about this episode 7? Do you like it or dislike it? Go ahead, sir.
All right, so episode 7. I would say that I enjoyed it not nearly as much as episode 6 or any of the previous episodes, not because it's the 7th episode, but just because while the action was not nearly as high, I do still give it a good ranking for character development, because this is where we get our second go round with Daredevil versus Muse. We get character development for Muse as the villain and everything. And I knew nothing about this guy going in. You got to understand. Like, I was looking him up and I'm like, oh my God, as far as comic book characters go, he's a baby. Like, he's only been around for like 9 years and everything, but he's already getting a spot as a villain in a major show. So that is noteworthy, I guess. Maybe not nearly as big as anything else, but it is noteworthy enough. I will say that I feel like I definitely got a bigger, broader deepening of Mayor Fisk as a whole, Heather and Matt's relationship taken to a new level with the sequence in the hospital and everything. Like, I feel like they had a great relationship already. You could tell, like, the dinner sequence when he's making dinner for her is so amazing. And I like that kitschy romantic stuff as well. I'm a bit of a romantic at heart, but I feel like when you're there for the person that you care about in the hospital, whether in media or in life, that broadens your depth to a new level in ways that you cannot even begin to comprehend. Also, I flipped out during the fight choreography when frickin' he launched the baton. And I'm sorry if it's kind of spoilering for everyone, for taking away from everyone else, but when he just launched through the baton and everything, I think it was like through his like upper shoulder or something. And I'm like, I didn't think it could do that. Like, I've been reading comics since I was 5 years old, and I never remember Daredevil using it quite that offensively, aside from, beating the ever-loving snot out of people.
Very good, Josh. No, I agree as well. What you were saying before is I think this episode was very good, but not as great as the previous episodes. Like, I think episode 5 and 6 were the highlight for the season, I have to say. We'll get into that, but yeah, I kind of agree with your point, sir. Jeff, your thoughts on episode 7, sir? Like it, dislike it? Tell me.
A little disappointing, honestly, to tell you the truth. It wasn't a really bad episode or anything like that. I wouldn't say that. I don't want to come off, the wrong way or misspeak. I'll rate the episode when we do ratings. I'll rate the episode well overall. In terms of of how effective it was. Episode 7 was not a bad episode of Daredevil Born Again, but I think that this far into the series, this many episodes in, I expected a little bit more, I think, from episode 7, probably, going into it than what I actually got out of just watching it, here like, an hour and a half ago or whatever. I was a little bit disappointed with how short the episode was. And that's something that I'll add to my overall series complaints list, in terms of like my gripes with the show so far overall. My biggest gripe is probably the length of the episodes. I really, after the first 2 episodes, I thought they were going to really try to like, have that same Netflix Daredevil vibe in terms of the length of the episodes, where it was going to be like at least 45 to 50 something minute long episodes every episode, right? I was surprised when they started dropping those really short episodes, in the series. And this episode could have been longer for me. I don't want to say that I feel like the show is rushed at all. Like, I didn't feel like episode 7 was rushed, but I felt like it could have had like maybe some more depth to it. Like they could have added a little bit more to it. And that would have been okay with me. I wouldn't have had a problem with it. It's kind of rare that I guess it's not rare. We've talked about episodes being too short on other shows a bunch of other times. Like Agatha, we talked about it a bunch of times. That the episodes were way too short. These ones are longer than Agatha, but they are shorter than the Netflix ones. And that's something that is apparent to me when I watch the episodes immediately. I think about that. It's very hard not to contrast the Netflix series when you watch Daredevil Born Again. Because it set a standard for Daredevil, what a Daredevil TV show could be like, a level, or whatever. quality that it could be, present, for a viewer, that really set some really big, marks, in terms of, quality. I mean, if you want to talk about like the fight choreography, yeah, it's, the little bit of action that they've shown, the fight choreography looks good, but the problem I'm having is the lack of action. And they could have, episode 7, there was some action, but it was so contained in one sequence, and then that was it. Like there was no other action really. It's in contrast to the Netflix show, I don't want to beat that comparison to death, but when you watch the Netflix stuff, there is more action per episode of Daredevil than what we're getting on Disney Plus so far. So I don't know if that's going to be how it's always going to be for Daredevil. I don't know if when they trimmed the series and they cut, they got rid of some stuff they'd already shot and all that. I don't know if they cut out a lot of the action or what, but hopefully there'll be more action in episodes 8 and 9, because I feel like the episode 7 and the show would be better served if it wasn't all drama, and relationship, relational, like person-to-person relationship type dialogue, type driven, type TV. Daredevil does that well. It works. But they took Karen away, they took Foggy away, they brought in new characters and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? From into the show and all that kind of, to some extent. So I mean, they made changes, and that's understandable after 10 years. But the feel of the show, I felt like episode 7 was a real standout to me in terms of like the lack of kind of the grit, that like we had in like the first episode or 2 of Daredevil Born Again, the grit level, like of like New York City, Hell's Kitchen, like has been a little bit tamped down, I feel like, these last couple episodes. It does have a Disney Plus feel to it, without question. And that's all, the last thing I'll say is it definitely has like a Marvel Disney Plus vibe to it, without question. Episode 7 made that very apparent to me.
Yeah.
What's wrong, Andres? Did you forget how to hit the mute button, sir?
No. Sorry, technical difficulties. But no. I kind of agree with you with your points. Just like getting back to it, like it's these episodes have been shorter compared to the Netflix show for a lot of reasons. But that series previously, and I'm just like as you were saying before, it's unfair to compare it and contrast it, right? They did such a good job of handling like the character relationship, the drama, with the action here. And I had to say, and unfortunately the show got reshot. Like they got a major overhaul, and you can tell from episode 1 and 2 and this episode, right, that it feels that it's overhaul and like it's a reshot from they were reshotting it from the previous creative team over the new one to like match the Netflix continuity. And I feel like it's a detriment to the show, which is really sad. Same thing with Captain America: Brave New World. Another Phase 5 project in this as well was affected by, the reshoots.
But Andres, I'm sorry, but when you reshoot a television series, it's not the same thing as reshooting a movie, sir. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a TV series, just because you have reshoots to it or whatever, like, that are massive. If anything, you'd expect that the show would end up being better, No, I
agree, but I'm saying more like the vision, like I just kind of curious, what was the vision for this show? Like, because why we shot this if you're gonna have these new characters and all that, which we'll get into, because my major complaint, and just wrapping up, like I agree, like we have these new characters and we just haven't not have enough time to develop them as these interesting characters compared to the old OG characters we like, Karen and Foggy. So I just, there's just a lot of questions I'm having here, like why, like we probably had a good story maybe, but I don't know. We'll get into that. We'll never know in many years. Okay. Saber, let's get to your thoughts on episode 7. Do you like it, dislike it, sir? Go ahead.
So overall, I enjoyed episode 7. Just like everyone else, it wasn't as good as the previous 2 episodes, most definitely. But I still didn't really have any qualms with it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I particularly loved the bow staff going through Moose's shoulder. I thought that was freaking awesome. The blood and gore there was absolutely fantastic. Made me think of like a horror film. And I think that like took it to a grittier edge for the MCU as well. And I think that, for me personally, I enjoyed the fight choreography. I thought it was done well. I enjoyed it. Was it kind of lame? Most definitely. I thought it was a little lame, but overall, I thought that it still got the point across and was still entertaining. Other than that, I thought overall the episode was quite interesting where they were trying to lead it. It definitely was an episode where they're trying to finish off storylines. And so it definitely felt like some have said kind of rushed a little bit. And but also I think that's because also too, because we just had 2 episodes that dropped at the same time that were a little weren't really connected completely together, because we knew one was kind of filmed prior and then the other one was refilmed. I think that this one definitely felt more connected to episode 6 versus 5. So I definitely think that the overall storyline that they're trying to get to for this first season is really trying to wrap itself up. And I think that's one of the reasons why this episode was so short compared to the other ones. And so that kind of limits them for how much they put out there, which I think that if they went a little bit longer, they could have made it a little more entertaining for some. I think some people might have been, enjoyed it more. But overall, for me, I thought it was very entertaining and enjoyable.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and just before we go into the scene by scene of this episode, I really like it. It's not as good as the previous episodes, as we all of us had kind of like talked about, differently. I just feel like we're just I just want to know what is the major storyline for this season, because right now there's so many storylines that's been going on, which we'll discuss in soon right now. And because like, okay, like I was shocked. I was completely shocked that we got rid of the Moose, as a villain. Because, I mean, yeah, I was happy to see like the old G, characters. I didn't know how they were going to handle it, but I was very excited about this Muse because he looks creepy. He like was an exciting villain, and from the comic books, of course. So I was very shocked that we got rid of him, and I don't know he's gonna survive or not, but like I was very shocked about this, and so I'm kind of curious how we're gonna end this series, like and I guess the Vanessa thing we'll get into later, in this discussion. That could be the major through line, which makes sense, and I think I have to be honest here that this is the storyline I'm actually more excited about, but which we'll get into. But besides that, that's my thoughts on the episode. So now let's get into like the opening sequence of that. And speaking of that, last week we're pretty much picking up from tonight, episode 6 episode after Daredevil rescue Angela from the Muse, and we kind of pick up there by going into the mayor's office. So here, Kingpin is getting formed by his like Wesley number 2. I forgot his name. Oh my god. But was it Cherry? No, whatever. But Wesley 2 forming Kingpin about the return of Daredevil, which kind of surprising him, but at the same time very frustrated he has come back. And so he tells the other fella, I'm sorry with the names now, but Daniel, to leave, and he's talking to his Wesley 2 to kind of discuss forward plans to how to like deal with the return of Daredevil. And so after that, his next move for that. So we kind of cue to the opening credits, and then after that we get back to Angela, who's kind of like recovering from the hospital, and she's having like these nightmares of her near fail encounter with the Muse. And then at the same time we cut back to Matt at the back at his apartment, recalling the previous night events, as he's like washes the blood from his hair, and at the same time his shower is interrupted by Heather, and the two share like this kind of very intimate conversation, because she knows that like he's starting again his like old habit of like denial, and like he's keeping secrets again, so like the typical superhero thing. And so she's trying to comfort Matt, and also trying to let Matt know that she can trust her about certain things. We'll get into later in that. So I think she knows he's Daredevil, but we never get a confirmation, but we'll get into that later in the hospital scene. But again, so we got this kind of very intimate thing. Which cut into the next morning in their bedroom, right? The Heather questions Matt about his mysterious late night comings and goings, because he's noticing all the like the bruises, right? And he tries to like downplay her suspicions, right? Like typical Matt, typical superhero thing. Batman does it, Superman does it. Downplay their activities, but which doesn't work. But she pushes back, because she's a therapist. So she's trying to tell him to stop bearing his trauma. She thinks this is something related to Foggy, maybe. But, the tendency breaks when they exchange I love you, a major milestone for them. And then, like, he generally touches her face as the scene ends, which I forgot. I rewatched it. This was another, like, I know this was like a cool Easter egg, a foreshadow of him doing the same thing when he was in the MCU'S hideout, to like investigate what was his next move and whatnot. We'll get into that because that was very silly. But anyway, and then after work, we cut back to Matt's work. His firm. Matt is confronted by Cherry, the police investigator, who is upset that Matt has resumed his activities at Daredevil. But Matt argues that the city needed him, especially because of the MCU'S silly killing activities. And so Cherry storms out, reminding Matt he's on his own this time. And Matt encounters that there's once a time when Cherry, still on the force, needed the devil to do what the cops couldn't. So let me stop there. I will start with you, Josh. What you thought about this beginning part of the episode up to Matt talking to Cherry about his return of Daredevil? Go ahead, sir.
Well, one thing that I really appreciated about it was the fact that, as I stated beforehand, like, we're getting more of Wilson Fisk as mayor, which is an interesting turn of events. So it's intriguing for me from a story perspective to have him no longer be able to flex like he used to when he was just the kingpin of crime. And I say just the kingpin of crime. I mean, let's not forget, he was basically running the prison at one point. That's a flex. As the mayor, he is now bound by his office. He can't go and do the things that he did originally. And it's been fun to see him trying to move forward while still also trying to exert a new level of control and authority, especially with Daniel as his right hand, or like his like young like protege, because I feel like his true right hand is that guy Buck. Like, he's the new Wesley. You were talking about Buck is the new Wesley, and Daniel is like a kind of like protege, as you will. And I just got to say, for a brief moment, I am loving the performance from I forget. I know he's James Gandolfini's son. I mean, I saw Many Saints of Newark. I should know this kid's name. But yeah, like, I think he's doing an excellent job.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael. I think Michael is doing a wonderful job, and I feel, and to me, he's getting a lot more, getting all this screen time. He's able to like step up and develop his craft as an actor, but that's neither here nor there. The relationship between Matt and Heather has gotten very interesting because, as you say, he is falling back into his superhero habits, the late hours, the excuses, the lies, all of the things that come, unfortunately, with being a superhero and having that active lifestyle, and also being a boots on the ground kind of guy. Will Heather find out? I don't know. I really don't know, especially because she's been around in the comics for literally years. I had to go back and do a double dive when she first showed up. I was like, why do I know this name? And I was like, holy crap. Yeah, she showed up in like the mid 70s and all that stuff. What was it? Marv Wolfman. I'm not trying to be pedantic. I'm just like,
Yeah,
who created her? Who was the writer before Frank Miller came in? And her as a therapist, because she's been really trying to plumb the depths of his psyche. And I feel like, with all due respect, even though they care about each other very much, that we got more of a reaction out of Matt talking about his personal traumas when he was confronting Frank than we are getting as far as like the relationship between Matt and Heather, especially because she's a therapist. Normally therapists are written to be able to like either do a really great job or a total crap job of getting to the depth of their patients or even their partner's personal traumas. Sorry, it's a bit of a ramble, but I've had a lot of time to think about this.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Yeah, the relationship is very interesting. These two, they're like, it's basically what I wanted to see from Batman and Dr. Trace Maria from Batman Forever. R.I.P. Val Kilmer, who sadly passed away. This is the relationship that like I kind of wanted to see from Batman Forever, and they're doing it here, which is kind of cool. And I really like your points, Josh. Cyber, what's your thoughts on this section up to Matt talking to that investigator about his return of Daredevil, sir?
So the beginning of the episode is pretty mediocre. Get you kind of in the, starts off where the last one left off, with the fight with Muse and the girl being almost killed. And so we get kind of that beginning little section there where we get to see her. She's in the hospital and everything. And then, of course, we have him showering and him and his girlfriend having some fun, a little menage a trois in the shower, which was very, new MCU-ish. And it's a little too bad. I was expecting a little bit more out of it, but, it is what it is. It was kind of as bad as the one in Eternals. But still, I thought that was kind of interesting. They have her like just pop up and as he's in the shower and just starts making out with him. I was like, okay, all right, this is different. And so I was like, all right. And then they have that little combo in the afterwards, as he's getting dressed and everything. And you kind of go, okay, what is this girl's deal? Like, is she fully under level here? Because I've had the thought process now over the course of the episodes of the girlfriend, which is kind of interesting because I really feel like she kind of dropped off in the last couple episodes. She really wasn't, very prevalent. And so I think like her coming back in this episode and kind of being a big, like kind of component of this episode, it was kind of like, oh, we need to really focus on her again. And so my thought process was, though, for a while, is like, is this girl under level? Is there some secret dark thing she's got going on underneath? Because why does she keep asking Matt all these different questions about, is he like a Daredevil? Because like, as we had in that previous episode when she's about to leave and he's having coffee and she kind of talks about the Daredevil thing, you're kind of like, she sounds like she's snooping around for questions there, like trying to figure things out. And so in this episode, this particular scene here, I felt that was kind of what she was doing again. So I think that, I'm not 100% sure if she is fully underlevered, just being the psychiatrist and all this kind of stuff. So it got me thinking like, oh, I wonder if we're going to see something else from this girl as the series goes on. Like, the next two episodes, is there something that we don't know about that's going to pop up about her? So I was kind of like, that's kind of interesting. That kind of puts a completely different kind of like thought process on her. I'm like, oh, this should be interesting. But I thought that whole conversation there was kind of mute, I felt, overall, because it was just kind of like, oh, once again, Matt, you shouldn't be doing these things, blah, 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 as we have seen through the series, since the beginning of the series, this new season anyways, him not being Daredevil, we wanted him to get back to being Daredevil. It's kind of like almost like trying to push him out of being Daredevil again. And so I was kind of like, no, we need him to be Daredevil. He's Daredevil. We need Daredevil. So I thought that, it was kind of, pretty, mute sequence, but at the same time, very interesting because I think there's more to meet the eye of this gal. But then as we get to him going to the office and we have him, get there and his one associate wants to talk to him, but he ends up talking to the cop guy. That was, kind of like, this guy is just a douche. I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, what the hell is it crawled up your ass, about him becoming Daredevil again? I'm like, you guys need Daredevil in New York City. Has you seen what's going on? You had a serial killer running around. You have a guy that's actually trying to stop the serial killer because the cops aren't doing anything. So it's kind of like, dude, you really need Daredevil here, bro. So I was kind of like, this guy, what the hell's going on with him? Like, I feel like there's something going on with him too. So it'll be interesting to see if anything develops of those two types of theories of mine, which they couldn't, who knows? But I think overall, this section, gets the episode started. It's interesting. And I think there's definitely some things that, kind of push forward the story arc of this season in a decent way.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that cop guy is Cherry. That's his name. Weird name, Cherry, but I'm not gonna judge. But yeah, he's becoming my least favorite character of the show. Like, and I was kind of surprised. I'll get to it, but I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring back the cop from the original Netflix show who was in contact with Daredevil. I forgot his name, but he becomes later important in season 2 and 3. But anyway, Jeff, your thoughts on the beginning up to Matt talking to his police friend Cherry, sir?
I know what cop you're talking about from the show. That one cop that he was close with or whatever. That one black guy. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I don't know his name, but I remember who he was from the show. They had a good relationship, all throughout. From what I watched throughout the show. I liked the aspect of Netflix Daredevil where he had a relationship with the police, in contrast to what's going on with Born Again. I liked it when he actually was known and appreciated in Hell's Kitchen as Daredevil, even though they weren't Netflix Daredevil, there wasn't any BB on the street type shit going on, or mayoral, type stuff going on or whatever, to where, there'd be any of these themes that we're having to deal with now in that show. I think that it was cool, almost in a Batman kind of way, type of style, to see Daredevil connecting with the street level, with the police, with the cops. It makes sense. He's a street level character, that he would interact with the police. So, although I understand where we're going with the story in terms of the vigilante angle with Kingpin as mayor, I don't like the deal with the cops being the enemy with him. That angle doesn't work for me, with him as a character. I prefer it the other way around. It was really cool seeing Kingpin saying he's back, his facial expression or whatever when he says that right at the beginning of the episode. I thought that was really cool, tonally or whatever, it kind of struck me a little bit. Not a lot of Kingpin's wife in this episode. She was, her story arc was really flat in this episode, and I actually like her character, so I like seeing her participate. As far as the therapist character goes, the girlfriend, who I can't name because she just doesn't, as a character, she doesn't stand out enough for me to know her name. She's kind of whatever to me, to be honest with you. She's kind of the one piece of the show right now where I'm a little bit, I don't really care kind of about her, unlike previous Daredevil, fare, the way they're handling her character on the show, especially her interactions and her relationship with Matt, it almost seems like they're giving away his secret identity to her, he's not even trying to hide that he's Daredevil. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense to me, In the other Daredevil stuff, it was never that big of an issue for him to cover up like his Daredevil stuff, you know, like he could always excuse it away or whatever, you know, and like nobody ever really questioned his identity all the time. Now it seems like he's almost in this relationship with this girlfriend. She's already said that stuff in episode 6 about wanting to write a book or whatever about mass heroes or whatever, you know, so you already had that sense that she knows he's Daredevil, right? Now it just feels like, you know, I mean, it's like Matt's not even hiding it, you know, like almost, you know, like in the show in episode 7. I don't know, you know, I mean, she's okay, but that actress doesn't really kill it for me or anything like that, you know. And they could have put somebody else in that as that character, and it would have been fine. I wouldn't have cared. I like White Tiger's niece or whatever. She's cool, you know. She was a good addition to the episode again. Just like, you know, in episode 6, right? Yeah, I mean, her having the flashbacks to Muse and all that shit and his lair and all that were pretty deep. I like that whole deal. That was interesting. Besides that, as far as the introduction goes, I don't really have anything else. I don't think. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you know, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You know, I can't really think of anything else. Let me look at my note. Yeah, I mean, just that, like, he's being so obvious in his relationship that he's Daredevil to me. You know, like, it seems like they've pushed their relationship to this really serious level at this already in episode 7, you know? And I don't feel like they built that up already, personally, kind of. I'm not like throughout the show, I don't feel like they should be this deep almost. Like they seem to be really close. Like they're like, you know, they're like, you know, like close to like, you know, marriage level type like place in their relationship almost, right? Yeah. Like it's deep like that, you know, like they love each other and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's deep. So I don't know, it's, you know, it's interesting to me, that relationship. It's not a great piece for the story for me, that relationship personally. But I don't think that she's going to, I think in some way she won't be around for season 2. I don't think, you know, like she's either going to get killed off or they're going to break up or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Matt's going to fuck somebody else or something like that. You know, he's got a wandering eye. You know what I'm saying? That does for women. You know what I mean? So like, you know, he can very easily meet some other chick and like, you know, and be in love with her next week. You know, I mean, seriously, one of Daredevil's you know, sixth sense abilities seems to be tracking down like grade A pussy, you know, and hunting it down. You know what I'm saying?
I got a thing to jump in on that just because this to me, you're talking about that is hilarious because in the comics, it's that same thing. But I've always noticed that his most serious, intimate relationships have always been with dangerous women, not even that he's like roaming around because he's thinking in the comics, you've got Elektra, you got Typhoid Mary, you got Black Widow.
Yeah,
and I'm like Matt, you're this good Catholic, Irish Catholic boy from Hell's Kitchen. And you, sir, you flirt with danger as a superhero and in your relationships because all 3 of those women could easily kill him without a thought. Same thing goes. Same with She-Hulk too.
I don't mean to step on you, Josh, but no, I think that you know, if you're a comic book Daredevil person at all, you are used to the femme fatale type girlfriend characters, you know, like Typhoid Mary and stuff like that, and Elektra and all that. And they've done that, you know, like they did Elektra, obviously, in Netflix, which I wasn't a big fan of that actress either, to be honest with you. I didn't like her as Elektra. That was a disappointment for me in season 2, was I felt like they could have had somebody better to play Elektra, you know, as a character. But no, you know, in the other, you know, the Netflix Daredevil, you know, they contained his relationships to Karen and the femme fatale type characters, you know, and then he had his occasional, you know, like women that he would meet or whatever. But I'm just not, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of her element. Like it seems like she was a big part of episode 7, the girlfriend, and she just really doesn't do a lot for me personally, her as a character. You know, I have nothing against her. She's not bad looking or anything like that. She just doesn't really stand out to me. as a character. And her relationship with Matt doesn't really do a lot for me. Like it's not as interesting as like the Kingpin and his wife, So that's pretty much it, I think, for the most part. Just again, that like, I wish there was more action in the show, like it's there's no action at all in the whole beginning of the episode. It's pretty flat,
Yeah, no, I agree. So a couple of things while you were talking. I just find the cop that Matt was talking, Matt and Foggy, his character's name was Brett. Brett was the one that was in contact with Daredevil during those early seasons, particularly the arrest of the Punisher in season 2. So that was that guy, Brett. Speaking of the Heather character, I kind of agree with you, Jeff. It's almost like we were missing parts of the relationship of these two. Like
they sped it up. They sped up the relationship really far, in the show. Like they're like they like compared to the other Daredevil we've seen. You know what I'm saying? Again, not to like overdo it with that, but there's no way you're not going to compare other seasons of a TV show to the one you're currently talking about or like watching, and especially when like that show has been considered really good. Like high level. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard not to make the comparisons. I'll be doing it when we cover season 2, talking about the Netflix Daredevil and all that, right? So I mean, I don't want to gripe. I like what Marvel Television is doing with Daredevil Born Again so far. I like how they're being more graphic and they're going more R-rated with their content and all that. But I feel like they could go a little bit farther. Disney could,
Yeah, no, I agree. And speaking of Heather, I just checked because season 2 is now filming right now. We're seeing behind scenes stuff. I don't think Heather's not coming back. She's not listed as the cast in season 2. It's funny enough. We were speaking to Josh. You brought up Daniel Blake, the fixed protege, played by Gandolfini, Michael. He's coming back. So I didn't see Heather in the casting list. So I don't know if they're going to update that, but it seems like she's not coming back. And yeah, just wrapping up, I don't know. I think maybe it's just the news storyline because like I wonder when Matt's going to find out that she's talking to Fix in the therapy session because he doesn't know that she has the therapy session with Kingpin and Vanessa. So I hope we get that payoff because I think it'd be kind of crazy that she's talking to like the biggest enemy that Daredevil has.
So the way that they've structured the show so far in terms of like how they've gone about the pacing of the timing of events and all that has been a little bit, I don't know, askew a little bit for me, just a little bit surprising, how the story's been given to us and unrolled so far. That's all.
No. It's just over the place right now. There's so many storylines we have to keep up. It's like, what's going on here? So let's get back to the scene stuff. So after the Cherry and Matt talk, we get back to Fick's office. No worry, we're not in the beginning. We're back in Fick's office again, where him and Buck are discussing again about Daredevil apparent return. I was like, okay, why we need this scene again? And then because they're trying to can wrap up their head around why he resurfaced now, and then Buck hints that Daredevil is going to go after the news would not be the worst thing. And so Fisk is still angry about what Daredevil, he talked about how Daredevil cost him so much of his criminal empire for the last 10 years. And he's very clear on trying to take down Daredevil now. And so it becomes clear that he has bigger plans for Buck. So he keeps him close to the vest for now, with certain things we'll see later in the episode. And then after that, we come back to the hospital where Matt visits Angela with her aunt. He hopes to learn more about the MCU'S. And, while the kid, is kind of hazy, with the drugs and she's still recovering, she does recall how obsessed he was about his sketches of a certain face. It's like, oh, okay. So, and then we cut to another scene where we get Vanessa. Speaking of Vanessa, we see Vanessa again meets with Luca, one of the mafia people, who voices dissatisfaction with how Mayor Fisk has been running things, or dissatisfied with things running with Fisk now being mayor. He hints at wanting a change in leadership. I was like, okay, and yeah, then after that we did, and this is a wrap up. I'm gonna wrap up just now. Then we head to our like weekly therapy session with Matt's girlfriend, Heather, and we meet a patient that we kind of forgot in episode 2 or 3 or something like that. Called this kid. The kid from Wednesday. If you don't know, that's the kid from Wednesday who played a major character there. I'm not going to spoil what happened to him in season 1. He plays this patient named Baston Cooper. He starts to share his story from his 8th birthday, and Heather tries to just delve into the pressures of his parents placed on this kid, but this kid grows uneasy. So then after that, this is where then after, while this is happening, we get also Detective Kim briefs Mayor Fisk on evidence that they found at the crime scene, and they identified that Bastion Cooper is a prime suspect. And she's not certain, but she's confident that he's the Muse, which means Dr. Glenn is extremely danger. So let me stop there. I think this is a good time to just, I was very disappointed with the Muse. I was excited for this character. Again, just to reiterate, I was excited for this new character from the comic books. And the fact that they got the actor Hunter Donahan from Wednesday, who is really great in that show. They kind of did a similar thing. They did his character in Wednesday. If you haven't seen that show, I'm not gonna spoil that, but like, I was like, okay, he's gonna be the Muse. I knew right away he was gonna be the Muse because it was so kind of predictable. But for me anyway, I'm kind of curious what you guys thought about the reveal of the Muse. So I'll start with you, Cyber. What your thought about the Matt investigating the Muse, seeing Fix trying to have a plan about where to take down Daredevil and the Muse, seeing the meeting with Vanessa with the Luca character about changing the leadership, pretty much wrapping up where we get the reveal of who is the Muse. Go ahead, sir.
So, I mean, basically, it's all like really a lot of information going on in this section of the episode. They give you the whole Kingpin spin there, where they have the discussion of Daredevil coming back. We have the little rendezvous with Vanessa and the I like to call the mafia guy. He makes me think of the guys from Hawkeye, the street gang there that was absolutely hilarious in that show. Their little tryst that they have together of talking about leadership type of thing, which was I thought pretty interesting. At the same time, it just seemed kind of like this seems like a setup. This definitely seems like something that Vanessa and Kingpin already had put together to get this guy to do something so that they could take him out type of deal. And it just seemed to like Vanessa turning on the Kingpin. Yeah, that just didn't seem like correct. Then leading up to, researching Daredevil, trying to figure out where, Muse could be going and all that kind of stuff. And we kind of get, that idea of, where he possibly could be from, what he was researching and everything. And then we eventually get to, basically his girlfriend character being there talking to this young man. And you're just kind of like, who's this dude? Like, oh, yeah, that's right. He was in a previous episode, wasn't he? And I totally forgot he was in a previous episode. Like, I'm like, why don't I recognize him? But as I'm looking at him going, he looks vaguely familiar. But at the same time, his body structure to me, I was just like, is this going to be Muse? I have a feeling this is going to be Muse. And then, of course, we have the ultimate reveal there as he's talking to a therapist that he is Muse. And I was just kind of like, very original there. And it just seemed very abrupt, really fast. That it culminated so quickly of who we find out who Muse is. With basically we have really with the introduction of Muse, we got a brief introduction showing him pulling bodies into his cavern. And then we have that brief encounter showing him doing his thing and then kidnapping that girl and then Daredevil kick his butt in his cave and then him escaping. And then basically we have, at this point, we have him, revealing himself. And you're just kind of like, wow, they really pushed that along really fast. So, yeah, definitely they did Muse dirty from the comics. Most definitely, I think they did underutilize this character. So him getting revealed was kind of like, interesting. Okay, this is where they're going. But at the same time, as everyone's kind of mentioned, this episode really seemed really fast and really short out of all the episodes. And so this definitely, I felt, was them trying to get this out of the way to move on with a bigger story that they're going to be trying to tell with Daredevil Born Again. So, yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, stuff that they go by. Is it the greatest? Nah. Is it entertaining? Somewhat. But overall, I think this section was probably I would say the slowest of the episode.
Thank you, sir. Jeff, your thoughts on this section up to the reveal of the Muse, sir?
Yeah, I don't want to go on and on and on about the same complaints or anything like that. I don't want to get into a negative space at all. But Cyber mentioned the length of the episode again. And so I just can't help myself but to just point out again that, you can kind of feel it during the episode when you're watching it that it's going to be short almost, it feels like it kind of, if that makes sense. And I don't want that for Daredevil as a character, like on TV, or whatever, like in a movie, whatever way you're going to do Daredevil. I don't want it that way. This part of the episode, the whole way that they went about working their way over to the Muse, without the mask deal with the therapist. It wasn't. Maybe it could have been done a little bit better, a little bit more fancy. They just went right to it. And you kind of knew where it was going to go, right? Like as in the audience, you knew it was bad for her. Whatever direction it was going to go in wasn't going to be good. The use of the dual scenes between Kingpin and the therapy session, the crossover between those scenes was well done. I like that part of the episode. That was good. How they were jumping back and forth and overlaying those two sub stories or whatever kind of in the episode. That was good. The way that they depict Kingpin as being this so hands-on mayor almost doesn't seem realistic to me at times, the level of control and overseance that he has, with the police and all that and etc. as the mayor. It just seems a little bit overdone a little bit, honestly for me, that's just my opinion. And, if we're going only up until the point where I guess Muse puts his mask on or whatever, if that's where we're stopping, it was cool seeing him, the tension that built up when he cut her arm or whatever. That was cool. I like that. But even then, they could have went farther with that if they wanted to, but it's Disney, So I guess, you're happy that they actually showed blood and all that, and all that, because it was a good scene. There was a lot of tension built up with that, but it was okay, I guess. Again, the episode was a good episode. It was a very watchable, entertaining episode of Daredevil. It was a great character. Fun to talk about, fun to see on screen. The firm that he's with now, Cherry and all that, I like Cherry because he's only has one name. At least, having one name is good, like that way I can remember who he is and all that. He's okay, like his participation is okay. But yeah, I mean, I can't really think of anything else. Let me look at my notes. I mean, like the therapy session with Bastian Cooper or whatever, like, or whatever his name was or whatever, like it was okay, like to kind of like go back to what Josh was saying. Yeah, I mean, like how, when people portray therapists on screen, it can kind of be hit or miss. This was kind of whatever to me, like her actual therapy session. I feel like it could have been a little bit better. The guy that plays Muse is okay, but he's gone already, So like, I mean, that, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of abrupt. Obviously, we'll talk about that in the next section, right? So I'll hold my thoughts on that for now. But yeah, I mean, I think this is when we saw Kingpin's wife, Vanessa, or whatever, in this section. And, they made it kind of seem like she was siding maybe a little bit with like that one thug dude, that wanted to kind of take Kingpin out or whatever, They kind of played it off like she was maybe potentially in agreement with him or like, or was going to work with him or whatever. I thought that was interesting, that angle of the story I like. I like the whole, the deal with the wife, being partially running the whole criminal organization and all that while Fisk is mayor, yeah, that's it.
Nope. Thank you, Jeff. Really awesome. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things going on. It's like, yeah, the Muse, the kid is so skinny. Like when we get into the section when he gets defeated by Daredevil, like his costume is so big. Like you think it should be a taller guy or like a buff guy, right? Playing that character. I don't know. It was just weird when he put on the mask because I never thought like, oh wait, he's very small. Like yeah, we'll get into it. It was weird when he put on the mask. The costume was like, oh, he's that short. Josh, your thoughts on this section up to the reveal of the Muse? What you thought about this section here?
So one of the things that I know has been coming up a lot during this discussion, and I agree with you all about this, is that the length of the episode was a detriment. And I haven't watched a lot of shows where therapy plays a huge role in it, so I can't really speak to the negatives or the positives of how Heather's session with Muse before he finally just snaps and goes full artistic villain mode and everything happens. Yeah, one thing that I will say, because we briefly mentioned Matt's relationship with Cherry, as now as from cop to now working as the investigator for the firm of Murdoch and McDuffie, which alliteratively I love, by the way. Nelson and Murdoch has always been fun, but I do like alliterative wordplay there. That's just one of my little funny things. Jeff, I agree with you. It is interesting that Cherry is so vehemently opposed to Matt coming back into the role. And just to touch on that very briefly, I have a theory. It's because he saw Matt on one of the worst days of his life as a superhero, where he couldn't save one of the people that matters the most to him. And so he was happy to see his friend, somebody he cares about and is now working with and trusts as a professional, stepping back into what he may have seen as a destructive lifestyle because of the fact that it literally took his best friend away from him, somebody that he loved and cared for as a brother. Because Matt is, in addition to being an orphan, he had no siblings. So the relationship with Foggy across everything is so much stronger, because this is somebody who isn't just his best friend and his business partner and law partner. He's like family to him in more ways than we can even probably touch on. But that's neither here nor there. Again, it's interesting that there is this breakdown, because as you point out in the previous shows, the police had a very cordial, not cordial, they had a very early Batman tenuous relationship with our boy. And the only one who seems to like, kind of like get on Matt's level is Brett, especially with the takedown, as you pointed out, Andre, of Punisher in season 2 of the Netflix show. One thing that I got a kick out of is you talk about how like skinny and slight this actor who plays Bastion is. And it made me think about other characters in comics, especially villain types, who have that skinny, unassuming, almost geek-like, like look to them. And it made me think of, just because of the way the mask was designed and everything, made me think of Scarecrow. Any version of Scarecrow, how they're they're those guys who are picked on and mistreated and everything, and they lash out as criminals through the forms of how they've been mistreated. With Scarecrow, I know we're here to talk about Marvel, but again, with Scarecrow, it's with fear, and because he was pushed out of academia. With this version of Muse, and in the form of Bastion, he doesn't have like this great background and everything, and he lashes out as kind of almost like a, I don't know, like it's like a avant-garde street artist kind of thing, in the form of these like artistic killings and everything. One could almost say it's like, because I'm a bit of an art nut, one could almost say it's very surreal. But when I think surrealism, I think of like Dali and melting clocks. I don't think of murals made from human blood. The reveal was rushed. I was hoping we would get Muse around for a lot longer, and I'm thinking he's dead. I know we're going to touch on that in a little bit, but I'm thinking based on the fight, he's definitely going to be 6 feet under in an unmarked grave somewhere. But yeah, they rushed it. They rushed it way too much. And I'm not trying to focus on negatives, but yeah, reveal was a mistake. They could have done way more to build it up to at least one more episode. Stretch it out a little bit longer. I believe in the long con when good storytelling is involved.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, the show did that previously. Like, the way that, famously, the season 3 did Born Again, and like how, building up, like when, Point Dexter, aka Bullseye, find out that Kingpin killed, his obsessive girl that he was like stalking, right? It was a big deal when he find out, and then got to the wedding, and he start, it was like a big point of the storyline. It was great. Or like the Batman, like you were bringing Scarecrow. I mean, the Muse reminds me so much of the Riddler from the Batman. Like, just think, like he's thinking that the system hasn't helped him, because his parents didn't didn't support his artistic vision or dream, instead of going this other route. It's interesting. They could have done something like that, like he's this like crazy artist terrorist, something like that. Yeah, I just wrapping up, we're into the final section. Like, yeah, I agree, the Muse reveal was so rushed, just revealing so much of this background. Like, you got 2 more episodes, and that's when I'm curious how we're going to end this season, because like you got this villain. It's like I feel like you didn't need the Muse at all this season. When we get into our season wrap up, in 2 weeks, I'm like, I don't think you need this character. Like, the fact that he didn't add much, besides bringing back as Daredevil, right? A previous guest talked about this before. Like, I like the way they're taking Matt to become Daredevil again, but I feel like it hasn't been organic as I think it should been, and I just feel like that this Muse should have been here. Like, I think that Bullseye should have been the other villain for this role. Like, I don't know why we needed this guy. Like, Bullseye is another iconic character, to use more of. I mean, we only had him, majority for season 3, and then he was here for this season for just that one episode of killing Foggy. So
I have a theory about this, actually. The reason that they aren't trying to overuse Bullseye as Bullseye, by the way, not as FBI Special Agent Poindexter or whatever, like he was at the end of the original Netflix run. I think the reason they decided to not use him for this season of Born Again is because it's what would be expected. And it would kind of lessen the impact of the show because of how pivotal Bullseye is in the comics, especially going back to Frank Miller's run which is arguably one of the most iconic runs of the overall character, Bullseye plays a huge role in the death of Elektra, especially because he is, working for Kingpin during that time period. And what worked in the comics at that point was great, but for episodic TV, it would be almost cliche to have like his number 2 villain and somebody who can actually physically step up to Daredevil in terms of skill and ability, and just have almost every episode be endless kung fu super fights, which are fun. Don't get me wrong, but even I know when there's a certain point where it's like, okay, you guys are literally kick slapping the crap out of each other. I'm actually ready for some exposition and some human interest pieces at this point.
Yeah.
Again, it's a theory. It's a theory. And I'm sorry to step on you, man.
No. I like what you're bringing up. I understand that. I mean, like they kind of did that with Bullseye. Like they didn't do the Karen death in season 3 either. Like, so they didn't do like the iconic things with Bullseye. Like Bullseye killed Elektra, but in the Netflix universe, he didn't do that. It was the Hand. So I can see where you're coming from. I had to just disagree a little bit with that. I think they could have done something with this character a bit more here this season, where Matt had to forced to become Daredevil because this guy killed Foggy. This season is missing an emotional hook for me to like care about these storylines that's going on. But let's get into the final part, folks. So yeah, after this reveal, good job, Josh. I really like your theory. I think it seems reasonable. You don't want to overuse Bullseye too much because he is a great opponent to Daredevil. So the reveal, cat out of the bag. Cooper is the Muse. He's Gil. So I was laughing. I don't know if you guys were laughing at this. It was funny they brought up. Was it Tactone? I'm sorry, the skill that he learned to fight. I was like, okay, that explained his fighting ability. Like I didn't need an explanation for that. Like I think you could have leave it mysteriously that he was good at fighting. But whatever. So yeah, so he made he is completely crazy. He becomes very unnerving when Heather probes deeper to the Mune's mind as he increasingly gets kind of like nervous and hesitate, and he has a nosebleed, and finally suddenly he's on Waverly, and then this is a good quote actually from the Muse, and that's why it's so frustrating about this reveal, because I think this character could have been a great character. I like how you say we can't hide from ourselves. It's only when we embrace who we are we can truly be free. Great line. I wish it was in a better season, I feel like. And it was just, I kind of wish we had more of that. And I really like that line. And so he uses his blood to draw his mask, to terrify that he is the Muse, and to terrify Heather, that he reveals his true self when she tries to flee. Bad call, Heather, really, and so she throws her against the wall and knocks her out. Then meanwhile, and then here we get the very stupid scene here. Not stupid, but very weird and stupid. I'm like, okay. So meanwhile, Daredevil visits the Muse later, and he like does, speaking of Batman, like he actually does a Batman thing of like jumping in, investigate. Okay, he investigates all this, and he finds sketches of Angela mentioned earlier, and this was weird. Okay. It's a superhero world. I get it. I can disbelieve, powers. And like Daredevil has a clear abilities. He's blind, but he has heightened senses to feel everything. Feeling paint and realizing that's her girlfriend's face, it's way too goofy. And I don't know how, like, you guys can explain that to me, but that was a weird moment where I was like, what? That's how you know that she's in trouble? It could have been way easier to say the radio was on from one of the police officers saying that there was a hostage situation. That made more sense. I mean, like, people do touch and feel, but I don't know, with Matt, it was kind of weird, like how he knows that was his, Heather's face and all that. That's kind of weird. I don't think blind people can do that, or either Matt. So that was very weird. That kind of took me off a little bit from the episode, but whatever. Then Officer Powell comes in. He kind of arrives, and then he does the same conclusion as well. Like people that Daredevil is returned. It's like, I get it, Daredevil is returned. He alerts the mayor, and he alerts him also about Heather's involvement of being like the next target. And so he asks Powell and the special task force that we got to go over to the office of Dr. Glantz to like stop this crime. So that's what happened. So Heather regains consciousness and finds herself tied up, and then face to face, the Muse suit up, holding a gun as he starts to drain her blood. I was like, wow. He hears the police sirens, and he attempts to like accelerate the process of his art, basically. And he starts to like, well, actually, let me rephrase that. She starts to like go him, like kind of like mind fucking the Muse, so that tried like be distracted, right? Calling everyone who hides behind the mask like a coward, like really triggering the buttons of the Muse, right? And he's enraged. He tries to kind of strangle her, and then as he's doing that, Daredevil bursts in through the window and begin to deliver a brutal beatdown. Very good beatdown, by the way. I think I agree with you, Josh, and kind of everyone brought up before. This fight sequence with the Muse and Daredevil is really good. I like the choreography. It was well done. It's a very jaw-dropping rematch of these two characters. We actually see what's going on, which is kind of cool. And it's until like Daredevil has once again gained the upper hand, and just before. As Cyber brought before, was cool. It's like seeing the how you say the grappling hook from the stick that Daredevil uses. I forgot the name now. Wow. It shoots at the Muse chest. That was really cool, very bloody. And before he kind of does his finish up the character, Glenn finds a gun and shoots the Muse multiple times in the chest, killing him. And then she does a Denzel in distress kind of collapse, from the blood loss. It's like drops down, and then Daredevil stables her before escaping. Before the whole corrupt task force come in, and they storm the scene there. And then Sergeant Carwell North, another corrupt sergeant that we saw from the previous episodes, admits to Fix that the task force didn't actually stop the music, and he kind of confirms that Daredevil did it, but he was already dead when they arrived at sea. So Fix kind of dismisses that detail, and he insists that they claimed the victory, which we see here in the news. And North agrees, and so leaving Fix alone to expect the aftermath. So okay, so we got that, and then shortly after that, we get BB meeting with Daniel Blake in the Fix office, where Daniel chastises her for the burning him before with the previous story in the other episodes about the garbage thing. So he warns her, if she wants her career to continue, she will print the Fist task force responsible for the takedown of the Muse, not Daredevil. She reluctantly does it. We'll see how she does, but I trust BB. She just like her uncle. She will tell the true story, and she will get in trouble. That's probably what's gonna happen this season, right? But we'll see. Then after we get back to the hospital, Matt is at Heather's bedside, and comforting her, right? And then she awakes and she recalls Daredevil saving her, and she vaguely remembers him positively saying her name at that moment. And so this scene's where I think she knows that Matt is there though, because I saw a previous before this live stream, I saw a video they were talking about the scene, and it's very clear, you can tell that she knows that that is there though, because she's waiting for him to tell the truth. And when he kind of changing the subject, and before she turns on the TV about the news about the task force taking the credit, not Daredevil, that was indicating that she knows, that moment is where she knows that he is Daredevil. The fact that Matt didn't say anything very quietly, it's that moment there in the hospital bed is where she kind of knows that he's Daredevil. Okay, so very interesting stuff. Yeah, so after that, we see, and this is like the wrap of the final episode here. So after that, we get a scene of Vanessa giving Luca the location of Fizz. So has she betrayed her husband? We'll see. And Luca sneaks into the restaurant where Fizz is dining and slowly, drawing the gun, like typical mafia way, Goodfellas, conceal, that, but only to be immediately shot in the head by the hidden Buck. Buck, you're MVP of this episode. You're awesome. You're the new Wesley, which is great. So he's done his job and fixed things, Buck, and instructs him to ask Vanessa what she likes for dinner, which was funny. I was like, whoa. And so, no. So Vanessa is still firmly on Team Fix, I guess. So, and cut to the episode, and that's the end of the episode. So let me go to you, Josh. I'll get back to you, sir. What you thought about the final section of the episode? Do you like it, dislike it? What are your thoughts on the final section of the episode?
I enjoyed it immensely. I know we've already previously touched on the fight sequence, but I just have to say, to give my full thoughts, for a confined space, it was a fight sequence that made excellent use of the environment. They trashed the office, furniture was destroyed, bookcases, windows shattered. To me, sometimes the best fight sequence in video games and in movies and in TV are ones where even if your character is in a confined environment, the fight is so explosive that it makes the scene bigger. Everything about it is larger than life. And especially because you have that this version of Muse is an expert in, I think it was Taekwondo. And so that's why when we get that little nugget, that reveal that you talk about during the therapy session, it's no wonder he is able to not only be a physical match in terms of body type for Daredevil, but because he can actually hold his own in a fight. And that is why I was completely floored. I was like, man, this is a legitimate ninja superhero kung fu fight. The throwdown in the pilot episode between Bullseye and Daredevil was great, and it was very comic book. But it's always interesting when you incorporate characters in comics and media who can actually physically hold their own against a character. One of the sequences that I always think of, going back to talk about the comics for a sec, DC versus Marvel in the 90s is Batman versus Captain America, and they're all the sequences, it's illustrated just with picture and with caption of them doing a feint, a block, and then they realize, what's the point? We can literally step up to each other. So good decision there to actually give a reason. Why can he do it? No, he's not physically enhanced. No, he doesn't have mutant powers or irradiated blood. No, he's just a kung fu expert. Also, I said it before, I said it again, he's not gotten back. He took how many rounds? Basically center mass.
4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 rounds. Well, wait, no. How many rounds? Yeah, or whatever. However many rounds were left in the clip, because he fired a couple of times, and that clip can only be what? That's a standard clip size. So at that point, there's at least maybe 3 rounds left in the clip. Either way, three more or less center mass. You're not getting up from that. I don't care who you are. The hospital scene, I know I already touched on it, but very tender, very emotional. But I think that Matt definitely made a mistake in dropping the hero facade. I grant you it's an emotional moment because his girlfriend, the current love of his life, has literally been through hell at the hands of a maniac and everything. So you kind of, your barriers are down. I don't care if you're a superhero or whatever, but it was a mistake. And it's sad that we're not going to get Heather back in season 2, because I feel like this could be the one relationship that is actually good for Matt. They're very good for each other, but at the same time, I get it. You got to move on, new characters, new adventures. Still a mistake, though. Sloppy writing, in my opinion, and I try not to dwell on the negatives, but I look at the overall whole, and yet the ending was so good. You talk about that sequence with Luca and Buck and Fisk in the restaurant. Very Goodfellas, very Godfather 1. The sequence at the restaurant with our boy Mike taking down that corrupt captain, and the one, I always forget his name, the one mobster who's the rival for the Corleone family. Pure chef's kiss, perfect. Especially because at first you're wait, what just happened? And then suddenly melts out of the shadow. I'm like, that is good. That is good writing. That is great cinematography. That is great use of your environment. All grade A moments to cap off an episode. That, again, smaller episode, kind of slow, but then chef's kiss ending. Kind of like the end of the way they did Moon Knight, where they reveal Jake Lockley, and I'm like, oh, you just got me even more invested in this show now. What's going on next? It makes me wonder, is Vanessa finally back fully with Team Fisk and everything? Because Luca was such a loudmouth as, like, in opposition as one of the 5 family heads. Makes you wonder what's coming up down the pipeline and everything. Also, Kingpin, buddy, you talk about trying to present a new image, and then you're eating all these high-end foods and everything. Like, I'm not going to dictate, what you could and cannot eat, but if you're trying to be better and then you split one of your suits in a previous episode because you've been dining on the hog again, hit the heavy bag again, man. Go crush some more skulls in car doors. Do a little cardio. Get out from behind that big mayoral desk, pal. Sorry, it's just it's an amusing little quip.
Yeah, but I like that. I don't know if you noticed that. It's a good detail to show that Kingpin is becoming Kingpin again, because he's, because at the beginning of the season, he was starting to eat healthy, right? He was trying to go a new leap. But then later in the season, particularly this episode, with Dinner, is showing that he's becoming more and more of the Wisdom Fix that we know from the previous season. So it's funny. I like how you brought that up. Yeah. But oh my God, the food is so good. I don't know, like the sausage / pasta is one of the best dishes I ever see. I really want to eat that. But anyway, this is not the food channel network. But thank you, Josh. Really awesome discussion, sir. Jeff, your final thoughts on this final section of this episode. Go ahead.
Well, just again, it being so short, it ended well. For what it is, for it being as short as it was, it was a well-paced episode that had a solid ending. I thought I might be going back in the episode a little bit on this, but that shower scene where they make out in the shower and all that, and she, the girlfriend sees Matt's bruises and all that shit from fighting the Muse, was just another reveal where it was just he's being so blatant that I'm Daredevil. Andres, you already mentioned, you think that that's where they're gonna go. It's pretty obvious that's where they're gonna go. That in that shower scene, he wasn't even trying to hide anything at all. It was right out there. So and then they killed Muse off so quick, as a villain. I mean, what about okay, this is episode 7. There's still another 2 episodes of the season left. I mean, he's obviously not going to bounce back from being shot like that. He's not going to end up alive somehow after that. So I don't know. Having her shoot him was a little bit deflating for me a little bit. It was just too quick. For him as a villain. They had really barely even scratched the surface of who he was, kind of. And then he's dead, right? So, I liked the concept of Muse as a villain, right? I would have liked to have seen more of him as a character in the show. They could have kept him around till the finale, possibly, maybe, or whatever. I would have liked that better, I think, than just killing him off like that. I mean, have him as more of an overarching villain for the series and keep him around. I'm sure they'll probably do interesting stuff with episode 8 and 9, don't get me wrong. But that was just really quick, and the build up to it, with the therapist, the girlfriend and Muse was cool. I liked the build up to it. But again, in this situation, unlike with episode 6, it made sense that Daredevil found Muse as quick as he did, right? That made sense, that he would know the address of where she worked and all that shit. So that worked. But in episode 6, it was crazy that he found the Muse the way he did, so quickly or whatever, when he had no idea where he was. That was insane. Just to kind of throw it back a little bit to episode 6. But yeah, I mean, I liked the ending where it's obvious that Kingpin's wife, set up that one guy, right, to get killed, at the restaurant with Kingpin. That was well done, Kingpin was very centric in this episode. You know, he had a lot to do with everything. You know what I'm saying? He has hands on everything, kind of. And you know, it's shitty seeing Daredevil, getting taken off of, foiling Muse, or whatever, like finding Muse and all that, like him not being able to be like recognized for doing that and having the cops do it instead, was kind of shitty. I didn't like that. Fisk's, dirty cops or whatever that he has. I don't like those motherfuckers as characters. I don't like them, So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the deal when the Kingpin is the mayor, right? Like the cops are going to be tainted by like the Kingpin coming back, like him being more like his old self. That's going to taint other people. And you see that with his employees, right? Like that one fucking douchebag guy, like threatened BB, or whatever her name is, that shit was crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, trying to like get her on board and all that shit, straighten her out. I was surprised by that. So, I mean, that was interesting, I guess. But the episode could have been another 10 minutes longer for me. More Muse, like they could have drawn that out more. More Kingpin, more wife, more Kingpin's wife, all that kind of stuff. I like the Kingpin's right-hand man is pretty good so far as a character. He seems pretty decent. So I like that element. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as my thoughts for episode 7, I think. I mean, I was just shocked that she shot Muse, and then, like you said, Andres, it's obvious in the hospital setting that he's Daredevil, that Matt's Daredevil. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's obvious. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty clear what's going to happen in episode 8.
Yeah. No, I agree, Jeff. Yeah, I totally forgot about the shatter thing. Yeah, that was another clue that, told. Yeah, I always hate when movies or TV shows are like, or trying to tell us that they're going to reveal the identity to a personal friend or whatever. Like Spider-Man Far From Home did this, where that, Peter in that movie was constantly like in risk of losing his identity because they were going to do spoilers, you haven't seen that movie, setting up the reveal of Mysterio revealing his identity that will lead up to No Way Home. And I hated that Far From Home, they were teasing that. And it's like, you don't have to tease us that, just tease one that, okay, maybe we're like gonna like reveal the identity, right? Like I know that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's an interesting aspect of superhero, stuff.
Yeah.
Like the whole secret identity angle. You know what I mean? The original Avengers didn't have that problem because like their identities were all publicly known. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew who they were. So there was none of that was going on, right?
Yeah.
As far as Moon Knight goes, I'll tell you, when it comes to the conversation of some of the worst finales of all the Disney MCU series that we've ever seen or reviewed, that Moon Knight finale was so fucked up and so bad. Like it was horrible. Oh my God. I remember watching that and reviewing it like on the show that night and just being like, oh my God, like what the fuck happened to the show? Like I was shocked. Just a little bit of throwback to bounce off Josh, I was okay with Moon Knight for the most part, most of the show, but it really dropped in like episode 5 for me, and that was it. And then the finale just tanked it. Love the character, I love the actor, but after that finale, I don't think I would have voted for another season of Moon Knight. Good character though. I'm interested in seeing him again in the MCU if they ever bring him back. It'd be nice to see him. It's been a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Whenever we get Midnight Suns, that's when we're going to probably see him there, right? That's
one of the aspects of bringing in the Disney Plus TV series, to the MCU, just instead of just having the movies, is they introduce so many fucking characters in Phase 4 and Phase 5, right? And we haven't seen a lot of them since their original, series or whatever that they did. We haven't seen them, a lot of these characters in the MCU, so it's unfortunate. We haven't seen Shang-Chi since the Shang-Chi film. You know what I'm saying? The characters from the Eternals. That's where I'm going to see them again. it's an unfortunate aspect of like all the building they did in phase 4 and phase 5. Just that, I mean, in terms of some of the characters, like the Black Knight, we haven't seen him since the fucking Eternals,
Oh God, the Eternals. Yeah. Another character that we had to see. But thank you, sir. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but the finale Moon Knight was really bad. It wasn't good, but not terrible. Like there was other Disney Plus shows finales were really bad, but yeah,
it wasn't bad because Moon Knight had a lot of good things going for it as a show.
Yeah,
it had good things. It had a good villain. It had a good main character. You know what I'm saying? Like it had all that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it had so many potential, but just didn't stick the landing, unfortunately. Saber, your thoughts on the final section of the episode, sir? Go ahead.
All right, so we're talking about the conclusion of the episode?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, basically the end of the conclusion, is fantastic, I think. It really picked up the episode and really, I thought pulled it full circle, entertaining. The action in that confined quarters was really great. Like I said before, I love when his tool goes through Muse's shoulder. That was really awesome. I kind of thought that, Daredevil's girlfriend there, when she's like trying to talk to him and is kind of like whimpering, it was kind of funny to me how she was whimpering. It kind of cracked me up a little bit because it sounded kind of like, it didn't sound like normal whimpering to me. I don't know. It just sounded funny. I felt like there was a couple of it was almost like a dog whining almost a little bit. So I thought that was kind of odd. But pretty much. And I was like, okay. And so like after they're fighting everything and she ends up shooting him dead, I was like, okay. That's a way of killing off Muse and getting rid of him already. I'm like, wow, they killed him off like that. I was like really shocked. And thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, like I said, to move the story along, they had to, probably get rid of him. I get that. I mean, kind of a waste of a character, bringing him in for like a few, scenes and then getting rid of him was interesting. But at the same time, I think that Muse had a bigger role in the previous storyline before they did all the re-edits. So I think that maybe he had been in there longer than what we saw and what they ended up putting out. So that's too bad because I think Muse was an interesting character that would have been interested to see just kind of how he evolved over the time. And, especially because it seems like he's supposed to be brand new to being a serial killer, but yet how they made it sound in this episode when they're, that one cop is explaining to Fisk about kind of started when he was a kid. It was kind of like, well, he's been, it's like, that sounds like he's seasoned more like, so it was kind of confusing there. But overall, I think that, his demise was, definitely a way to catapult the series forward. And I think that, Heather, getting like sliced there briefly, I was kind of cracking up because I felt looking at that cut wound, I was like, doesn't look like it would bleed very much, that little cut there. So I don't know how deep it was supposed to be or whatever. It would have been a little bit better context, but I was kind of like cracking up, like she passed out from that little cut. I'm like, okay. But anyways, then finally, basically, them kind of wrapping up, saying that, oh, it was a task force that got Muse. That was kind of interesting that they decided to go that route. That Fisk is still kind of like at first when we first were introduced to him and him and Daredevil were talking at the beginning of the series, he was like, any vigilantes would be taken care of, type of deal. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like he hears that Daredevil's back and he's kind of like, I got to work this the right way, type of deal. And you're kind of like, what the hell is he doing? Like this is definitely, he's becoming Kingpin again. And so I really enjoyed that. I think that was really clever in that it really was kind of giving you the idea that there's more to Fisk once again becoming Kingpin, and kind of this, mayorship is kind of that ticket to growing back to that power that he once had. And so I think that like kind of toying around with things is kind of interesting after what he said previously in the series. So I thought that was kind of interesting. them, taking the credit and everything. And when everybody else knew that wasn't true. And then, of course, Tony Soprano himself, basically kind of trash talking that BB gal was really fun. I thought that was really great. I liked that, he kind of almost took on kind of playing his father a little bit and really kind of emphasizing that, that, my dad taught me some things and I'm going to kind of use them in his bravado. It's almost like he was kind of mob boss kind of going on there at what he told her. And I thought that was really fun. Interesting, showing that kind of how dark of a turn he's taking along with Fisk. So I think that's going to be a great thing to see as it progresses. But then, basically we have the hospital sequence, which was really brief and, just showing, oh yeah, she's going to survive. It was okay. I think throughout this whole entire episode, she kept hinting at she already knows he's Daredevil. I don't think this scene was pivotal in that. I think that it was just another little, cookie crumble in that process of, once again, going back to what I was saying, that I think there's something more to this girl than meets the eye. And I think that, we're going to find out something eventually down the road. And so I think that, that was pretty basic, that sequence. But then that end sequence where they take out the tracksuit mafia guy, as I like to call him, like I said, that guy totally made me think of the guys from Hawkeye. That was freaking awesome. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was awesome. And having his little sidekick guy take him out, I was just like, oh, I'm like, nice. And then when he says, call Vanessa, that, ask her if she would like me to bring her anything home, was the tea grass to ending of the episode. That was just on point, awesome. So I think it's a very strong ending of a very short episode. Like everyone's kind of mentioned, unfortunately, it was just so short of an episode. There's so much more they could have drawn out and made it a little bit longer and made it a little better, to basically achieve exactly what they got the last couple episodes. But overall, I still think it was very entertaining, and I thought it was a solid ending.
Very good, Cyber. The people from Hawkeye you're bringing up, they're the tracksuit mafia. That's the one from the Hawkeye. I was like, they were tracksuit mafia. Very funny people. I wish they were in this season because they could have been a lot funnier and fun for this season. All right. Ratings. Josh. 1 out of 10. How you rate this episode, sir?
All right. So if I have to give this 1 out of 10, I'm gonna be generous because of the fight sequence and because of the small amounts of character development. I'm gonna give this a very healthy 7 Billy Clubs out of 10. I'm gonna rank it based with a Billy Club sequence. I'm giving it 7 Billy Clubs out of 10 for episode 7, not on purpose, by the way, of Daredevil Born Again. And that's mostly for the fight sequence because that was some gorgeous cinematography there. Especially, as I said, confined spaces. If you make it work, blows the whole thing out of proportion in a beautiful way.
Yeah, no, good. Thank you, sir. Saber, your rating, sir, of this episode.
I'll give it a 8 out of 10. I think it was a very solid episode. I'm giving it 2-point deduction because I just felt the previous 2 episodes were just far superior. Other than that, I think it was a very solid episode. It being shorter, I think too that has to deduct some points. So I'll give it an 8.
Very good. Jeff, your rating, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kind of downgrade my rating in terms of the effect of the overall series and some of my complaints with the show in general. Unfortunately my episode rating is going to suffer a little bit because of that. So I'll give episode 7 just a 7.5, I guess, because honestly it could have delivered more, I think, than it did. For what it was, it could have been longer. There could have been more, connective tissue. There could have been more Muse, So, where's the Punisher? You know what I'm saying? What the fuck, man? You know what I mean? Like, come on now.
Yeah, I agree. Where is the Punisher? Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, Jeff. I'm a little 1 point after you. I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a decent episode, nothing spectacular. I was just shocked of the direction that this episode did, like the fact that we got rid of the Muse. We sort of hint at Heather knowing that Matt is Daredevil is like, okay, like just say it, like I don't need another episode to like she knows that he's Daredevil. It's like I don't need this to drag on. Like just to say in this episode that I know you're Daredevil. It's like it's not like a big deal. Like it's a big deal, but like in their relationship, but like I don't know, it shouldn't be dragged out. And it's just in general. I agree with Jeff. It's just a lot of action. Like we need more action in these episodes. Like balance the drama and the action, please. That's the thing.
There's not a lot of action. That's the problem.
That's the
there's
problem.
Not a lot of action. There's not a lot of action.
I'm just surprised with the reshoots. It's like, which we can do cheaply, and it's like we cannot do the action, or I don't know what they were thinking, but yeah.
There was more hand-to-hand combat in Captain America 4.
Yeah, way more destruction, with the Red Hulk stuff. Yeah, it's true. And I want to before we wrap up, I agree with comics. Like you can make a therapy session also intriguing. Like look at The Sopranos. Like they did such a good job of making that session really iconic. Like that, you think about what The Sopranos, those two characters, the actress from the Goodfellas and Gandolfini talking to each other, is that image you remember from The Sopranos, because those sessions, right? And I think they could easily done that, but because they didn't spend time with the therapy session, like, we didn't spend time with the Muse with Heather in the therapy session, where we're just mostly focusing on the Vanessa and Kingpin, which we're kind of forgetting. But yeah, so overall, very weak episode of this season. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to say thank you, Josh, for coming in tonight. I hope you had a great time, talking in depth about this episode. Just want to thank everyone for joining us. I'm going to hand it to Jeff to plug us out. I'll be back in the finale, actually. I'm going to moderate the finale. Next week, Jeff is going to take over for the moderation of Daredevil Born Again. So go ahead, Jeff. It's your time.
Thank you, sir. Excellent. I can't wait to do episode 8. I'm sure. Hopefully, it'll be a longer episode of Daredevil.
I think you're gonna be lucky.
I hope so. We'll see. If not, I'll be bitching about it during the episode 8 review.
Oh God.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Andre's the Pop Culture Guy. Since you led the discussion tonight, sir, I will plug your YouTube channel first.
Andre, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yes, sir. Andre's the Pop Culture Guy. Yep.
Okay. Anyway, hello everyone. This is Andreas Pop Culture Guy. Thank you guys for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I mainly do pop culture themes. To just inform Josh what I do here. I do a lot of things of pop culture themes, movies, TV, and all that. I do live stream views. I do shorts. Recently, I did a April Fool's joke on everyone. You guys thought we had a Batman Brave the Bold teaser trailer. Check it out. Maybe it's real or not, but it was a funny April Fool's joke there. But tonight I have a proper review. Today is the birthday of Michael Fassbender, so there's a Mike Neal tribute to his role, his iconic role that made him famous. So please check that out. And upcoming live stream review, we're going to do our first top ranking. So I was talking to Jeff, and we're going to do our top ranking of the MCU phases. So we're going to rank our least favorite of the phases up to our best phase, which I know what's going to be number 1 for best phase. But anyway, so that's what we're going to have for the Enjoyers Pop Culture Channel Presents. That's where I'm at right now. And I just want to say thank you, Jeff and Cyber, for joining me a couple weeks ago to do the Ace Frontier 2. It's doing very well. Very shocking, but I mean, it's Jim Carrey, of course. So please check out the other live stream reviews and the other content that I have.
Okay. Thank you, Andre. It's the Pop Culture Guy. All right, Josh, sir, here you go. I got your podcast pulled up.
Hey, there she is. All right, so yeah, we are the Triple C Podcast. That's comics, culture, and cosplay, based out here in the Chicago area. We're audio only. It's much easier with my preferred background. I used to be in broadcasting. We release a new episode every Monday covering everything. We do news, we do reviews, we do interviews, we do convention coverage. We're actually going to be boots on the ground at C2E2 2025, April 11th through the 13th here in the Chicagoland area out at McCormick Place. So if you see me or any of our squad wandering around with a t-shirt with our logo on it, yeah, come up and say hi. We'd love to get a picture with anybody. We love it when we meet random fans out in the wild, and we're hopefully going to get some really good content out of there. If you want to check out our latest episode, we decided to just do something pretty fun. I did a reshare of 4 of the best interviews, and I want to say the best 4 of the interviews that I think were some of my favorite out of my entire podcasting career so far, with the original voice cast of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the OG 4 from the 1980s series. That's Cam Clark, Barry Gordon, Rob Paulson, and Townsend Coleman. But yeah, come check us out. We're on social media. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. Drop us a like, drop us a review. We'd love to hear from people. And we're always looking for new stuff to talk about, because pop culture, it's an ever expanding sphere. And we try to cover the gambit as much as we can. So we welcome any suggestions, tips, or even, hey, why don't you guys talk about this? Why don't you cover this topic? We want to reach our audience in the best way possible.
Okay.
Pretty awesome.
You, sir.
Save your podcast. I'm going to listen to it soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Wow, you interviewed all the 4 Richard Turtles? That's crazy.
Wizard World Chicago 2019. I was very fortunate to get to get that plum set of interviews that day. That was a good weekend for Josh.
That's cool. Sorry, Jeff, about that. I just had to geek out on that. Sorry.
That's okay, sir. That's okay. All right, Cyber, close us out, sir.
All right, folks, if you enjoy me here on the podcast as a moderator or as on the guest panel, you can check out my solo content. You'll find me under Cyberneticshark. My hometown is YouTube, of course, or you can find me also on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Patreon. If you haven't checked out my Patreon, definitely check that out. As you can see there, my most recent trailer reaction is for the upcoming Happy Gilmore 2, which drops on Netflix in July. Just put that up today. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out that trailer. Or if you haven't seen my most recent review, Mickey 17, which is a new Bong Joon-ho film, the man that directed Parasite and the great film from the early 2000s called The Host. Definitely check out my Mickey 17 review. Really great stuff. And of course, if you haven't checked out my shorts recently, I put up a few recent shorts, The Great Outdoors, and a few other things too as well, of some recent films I saw. I'll be having more shorts, more reviews for you guys up soon. Definitely more reviews and trailer reactions, of course, but keep your eyes out on that stuff. Just want to thank everyone out there for watching us here on the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. We appreciate you guys. You guys are rocking it. And of course, if you haven't seen anything else, definitely keep on watching us, keep on supporting us, help all of us out. I want to thank, of course, Mr. Andre, the pop culture guy, for doing his moderating tonight, of course, and definitely check out his content as well. Check out the comics, culture, and cosplay as well. And I want to thank Mr. CCC for being here tonight. And, of course, as always, Mr. Jeff S. TrueKnowledge himself, got to thank him, too, as well. Woo! He's a blast. He is a blast. Anywho, that's it. Cyber out.
Excellent. Thank you, Cyber. I appreciate that. From coast to coast. That is very much welcomed. All right. Yes, I concur. Josh, thank you very much for helping us knock out Daredevil episode 7. Daredevil Born Again. That's it. We've got 2 episodes left for this Disney Plus Marvel television produced series. And let's savor it. Because the next one is Ironheart, maybe. And as we all know, that could be interesting. You know what I'm saying? It could be we don't know what we're getting into yet with that. So I'm sure Cyber and Andres, and you too, Josh, I'm sure you're very excited and you can't wait for Ironheart to come out. It's probably right up there on your radar of what's the big TV shows that are coming out in 2025. I think a new trailer came out for Alien Earth. I think. I saw something on YouTube, and we're covering that later on this year. So check that out, folks. That should be fun. I'm looking forward to covering that. Alien Earth.
Alien Earth is great. Fuck.
There you go. Yes.
Ironheart.
Reviewing I love sci-fi, so reviewing stuff like Alien in TV form, hell yeah, baby. I'm down for that. All right, so folks, come see us again on Friday for Rogue One. I'll be leading the discussion, and it's the first time we'll be doing any Star Wars. Since we've done any Star Wars for a while. We got Andor coming up, so I think I thought doing Rogue One would be fun. And I'm looking forward to it. I have no idea how Cyber feels about Rogue One. I'm very interested in hearing his thoughts and his opinions, just like I'm just pop culture guys. I love Rogue One. It's a great movie. And, I'm really looking forward to the review. Next Friday, we have, Cyber, I'm struggling with the name of it. What is the movie that you picked that you gave me for next Friday?
You got me. I can't remember.
Final Destination?
Is it Final Destination?
I think so.
Yeah, Final Destination. That's what it is. I think that's what it's called, right? Final Destination. Did they make a couple of them?
Yeah, 5 or
there's
six.
Six one is coming out this year.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, but the original one is the best one, so I'm looking forward to that too. There you go. That is next Friday, folks. And yes, we have Andor coming up, and I'm looking forward to that. We got The Last of Us coming up pretty soon, and that's going to be fun. But thank you very much to Cyberneticshark. Thanks to Josh. Thanks to Andres, the pop culture guy. Thanks to myself. Thanks to everybody that supports the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. We appreciate all of you out there. Have a great whatever the day is going to be the next day, at whatever time you find us. We are a podcast. We're not just digital creators. Feel free to follow us and rate us on whatever platform you're privy to. Apple Podcast preferably. And besides that, God bless everybody, and we will see you on Friday. Later.
Look at this. A transgender cop car. Look at that.